Hello and welcome to another podcast. Today we are going to be discussing Pascal's wager. It was actually brought up to me by a guy on my Skype contacts list who wanted to ask me a couple questions. So we'll get into that in a minute. But really quickly, this podcast is sponsored by FexitHosting. They're a Minecraft server hosting company that hosts servers for very cheap. It's great prices. They have great services, amazing support. I've checked them out. I've thought about creating a server myself, and if I do, I'm definitely going through them. If you do check them out, it's FexitHosting.com and use the code ThezRhino in order to get a 10% discount. It's a great way to get an even cheaper service for Minecraft hosting, and be sure to tell them Rhino sent you. Now, let's get down into the meat of what we're talking about. So basically, a guy messaged me and he asked me, he wanted to preface first, let me start by saying that this whole interaction was very friendly. There was nothing hostile about this interaction whatsoever. There was no insulting, no ridiculing or anything like that. This was purely friendly. But I'm not actually going to be discussing the the discussion we had. It just makes me want to talk about Pascal's wager, but I'm using this situation to set up Pascal's wager itself. So basically, he messaged me, and I'm summarizing here, but he asked me, like, why don't I believe in God? And his reasoning that he started out with, not necessarily his best proof, was if I'm right and he's wrong, then nothing happens, we die, that's it. If he's right and I'm wrong, then I go to burn in hell for all eternity. So it seems like the safer bet to believe in God. And he just wanted to know my response to it. He said something about he's trying to become something in the church so that he's able to answer these types of questions, which is, that's pretty cool. And I like talking about these types of things. And it was, like I said, there was no hostility to it whatsoever. And so it was great to have this conversation. But I answered him, and I told him first that, that's Pascal's wager in a nutshell. And there are a lot of responses to Pascal's wager. But one of my favorite is this, and this is pretty much what I told him, is I wouldn't ever use a logical proof like Pascal's wager, which isn't exactly a logical proof, but it's sort of a logical reasoning to believe in a God, sort of. The reason why I wouldn't do it is even if Pascal's wager were factual, and let's say it's a false dichotomy, but let's say there was a dichotomy where it's either Christianity or atheism. There's nothing else. There's no other religions. Perfect world, nothing else. Even if it was that I wouldn't even want to believe in it then, because it wouldn't make it true. You see, the reason why I don't believe in any gods is because I don't see any reason to. There's no evidence for it, so there's no truth behind it at the moment. Now, that doesn't mean no gods exist. I hold on to the idea that it's very possible that a god or maybe like a polytheist belief holds true or a deist belief holds true, that there could be a god out there. There could be gods out there. You never know. And there's always that possibility, which is why I'm not a Gnostic theist. Or a Gnostic atheist, sorry. That's why I don't say I know there is no God. I've never said that. I just simply say I lack a belief. And it's just because there is no truth to Pascal's wager, because it doesn't make it any more likely that a God exists. It's just playing on, I'm afraid of hell, so I should believe in God. Which isn't a good reason to believe in God. And that's kind of my response to that part. Now, what else? Well, what about if you're wrong? There are other possibilities too. I could be right, you could be wrong. And you covered if you could be right, I could be wrong. You covered those two. But what about if Islam is right? You see, technically, you believe in the same God as Muslims, but based on their belief system, you would be going to hell because you're worshiping the wrong, is it prophet, I guess? I don't really understand that part of it. But Muslims say Christians are going to hell. Christians say Muslims are going to hell. So what if Islam has the correct interpretation? What if Judaism has the correct interpretation? What if Buddhism? What if Jainism? What if Hinduism? What if one of these has the correct interpretation of the world around us? What if they're right and you're really angering their God? What if, and this is, I just have to throw this out there because if you're using Pascal's wager, you have to consider all possibilities. What if a God exists that, like yours, in extreme parts of the religion, hates when you worship false idols? So you are worshiping this Allah. You're worshiping this God that you believe in. Well, what if he's not the God? What if there's a different God and he sees you worshiping Allah and he's getting Yahweh. Why did I say Allah? Sorry, Yahweh, not Allah. He sees you worshiping Yahweh and he's getting more and more pissed. But he sees me. I don't believe in him, but I'm not worshiping a false prophet or a false idol. So I could be going to heaven or a heaven-like place, and you could be going to hell or a hell-like place because you're worshiping the wrong deity. Now, there are a lot of Christians. One is I can't remember his name. He's a doctor. He made a very good video talking about he went to some trial where he fought against intelligent design. He is a theist. He's a Roman Catholic, but he fights against creationism because he realizes that creationism is harmful and that it's bad, especially when they're trying to push it into schools. It actually went to the Supreme Court, and he argued in the case at the Supreme Court to prevent creationism from being in public schools where it should from science classes in public schools where it should not be. And he made a great argument. He says there's all this evidence for evolution and the Big Bang and pretty much all these things that creationists hate. And I know this isn't a discussion about creationism, but I'm going somewhere with this. And he prefaces it. He ends it with this. He goes through this whole spiel about all these evidences for evolution and stuff like that, and he finishes it with this. I believe in a God, but I don't believe in a God that would try to deceive us. You see, it doesn't seem like there is any good evidence to believe in a God right now that we've discovered. But there is evidence that's pointing in the wrong direction. You see, there isn't evidence that a God doesn't exist. That is not possible. But what there is how like the Holy Bible. The Bible was written a couple thousand years ago by very uneducated people, and it had a lot of information in it. It had prophecies, it had stories, it had like first and third perspective, first and third person stories. It talked about God, talked about all these different things. And then a couple thousand years later, when we get to the last 50 years or so, science has been disproving things that are in the Bible. Now, I don't mean to offend people, but there are things that are incorrect in the Bible, and you can find a lot of them. Not only are there things that are wrong, there's also contradictions, which is a little iffy, but there are a lot of things that have been proven wrong. There are a couple parts of the Bible where it hints at a flat earth. There are other things where they're like in the entirety of Genesis is wrong because we know evolution is how we came to be and not through God's creation in 6 days and on the seventh he rested and so on and so forth. And so there is bad evidence. It seems like deception, I guess. And I just agree with the guy that the evidence points in the direction that it looks as if there isn't, at least the current religions are false, because these holy books that are supposed to be the start of these religions, books about these religions and how to practice these religions, have incorrect information in them, which looks bad. And it never works on correcting itself. So why would a God be deceptive like that? I don't believe that there would be. I believe that if a God exists and he wants us to worship him, he would provide good, solid evidence that he exists. And so I don't believe that that's a good enough reason for it. Let's see what else. And this is the last little thing. Actually, two more things. Number one, people always say their religion is the right religion. Pascal's wager has been used for multitude of religions, not just Christianity. It's been used for Islam and Judaism as well. Well, how come you happen to be born into the right religion? Most people in the U.S. are Christian. Most people in India are Hindu. They just happen to be born into the wrong religion, apparently. And being Hindu in India is so popular that the likelihood of you being born and becoming Christian eventually is very small. It just seems coincidental that you happen to be born into the right religion, the one true religion, and there with all these other tons of other religions in other places that claim to be right just like yours with the same amount of evidence, but yours just happens to be right. And then the last part right here. So, if God punishes people for not believing in him, saying Pascal's wager is true and Christianity is correct, so that he's right, I'm wrong, we die, and we're going to be judged. Now, I'm not stating this guy is like this. I'm just stating if his proof is logical, then this would have to follow. Me and him are being judged. He goes up, I go up. God looks at me and says, you are a non-believer. That is really bad. You're going to hell. And he sends me to hell. Don't you think that if he were to do that, send me to hell, a good person, I'm a good person in general. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I do good things and I don't harm other people. I'm a genuine person in that sense. Do you think he would send me to hell and not be able to see through your fear? If he is so dependent on your worship and your love for him, your belief, he cares so much about that. Don't you think he would be able to see through your fear? Supposedly, let's say you follow Pascal's wager and you say, okay, well, it'd be safer to believe than not to believe. Don't you think this all-knowing God would be able to see through that? The only reason you believe in him is because you fear hell. I would not want, if I were a God, I would not want people believing in me simply because they fear the place they would go to if they don't believe in me. That's coercion. That's evil. It should be on faith and evidence. Well, not faith, mainly evidence. It should be they want to worship me. They want to love me. They want to believe in me. That's what I would want. So that's just my little proof of, I guess my response to Pascal's wager. And it covers quite a few. There are a lot more. Pascal's wager is not a very good evidence for God. It's not even used as evidence for God. It's used as a reason to convince people to believe in God. But I don't know. I just don't see it working very well. But thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to check out FexitHosting, like I said. FEXIT hosting.com. The links will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.